Hello, lovely beings, and welcome to another Galactic Mayan Astrology Report with me, Jyoti. So, this is a report for the 13 days that follow Sunday, the 20th of April 2025. If you've not been here before, I work with the Galactic Mayan calendar, which is also known as the Dreamspell, and it is a 9 month spin that is split into these 13-day processes with 20 different archetypes. So every 13 days, we begin a new journey with a certain archetype. And on the 20th of April, 2025, we move into 13 days with the archetype of the blue hand. So the blue hand energy is blue. So it's all about transformation. And the blue hand in itself is about emotion. It's about emotional evolution. It's about the emotional gateway. And it's a really important archetype for us to lean in to reconnect with because I feel some of the archetypes that we journey with are more accessible within our culture in the West, and other archetypes like emotional transformation that is a bit more blocked for us. So I am beaming in from the first proper day of my bleed in a space that's very chaotic because I'm getting ready to go to the south of France. So I'm packing everything down here and taking flight for a while and following the call to the lands of the Magdalene. And I'm going to be hosting an online container for women so that we can journey through Mary Magdalene's gospel and teachings and really connect to that deeply feminine, human, holy space that is very much aligned to the blue hand energy. So I'll put the link below if you're interested in what that is. You're very, very welcome to join us. And like I say, I'm going to be physically on the land there, so it's going to be very potent. And yeah, you're very, very welcome to join. It starts on the 5th of May and runs to the 30th of May. And we meet online 7 till 9 p.m. on Mondays and Thursdays. One of the calls will be more active. One of the calls, like dance and movement, one of the calls will be more inner exploration. Both one and the same, but you know what I mean. And they're all recorded, so if you can't tune in live, that's okay too. Yeah, very, very welcome. So yeah, I just felt to kind of preface like I'm slow today and in the perfect place inside of myself, I feel to bring the transmission of the blue hand. So the blue hand energy, as I say, is about emotion. And yeah, I guess from my experience, it's very easy to disconnect from the emotional body. And once that disconnection has happened, it's very difficult to reconnect to the emotional body because the emotional body is feeling everything all the time. But when we haven't had our awareness plugged into it, there's like a backlog. And really, what we are asked to do through the emotional body is cope with quite intense sensation. Emotion is very intense sensation, and pain and grief are overwhelming to our systems a lot of the time, and they're meant to be because they allow us to go through a death. And the emotional body is really this evolutionary tool for us to transmute through. We've got our mental body, we've got our physical body, we've got all of the layers of our energetic multidimensional selves, and we also have the emotional body. We are made up of all of these different layers like a Russian doll, and the chakras move through all of the layers. The chakras are the connector points between all of the layers of our aura, all of the layers of our energetic selves. And I think, we're very conditioned to be thinking in the mental body. And sometimes, when we get into the spiritual realms, we can focus more upon, the subtle and the energetic. But I would say that the most difficult body for a lot of us to be in is the emotional body. And the key for us as human beings, these new awakening human beings, is to be able to flow through each of the bodies, to have the channel between each of the bodies open. And like when someone says that they've got a block in the chakra, it's not just that chakra. It's like, well, what body is blocked? The mental body being blocked in the root is a very different thing to the emotional body being blocked in the root. And for us to open during this 13-day process to the emotional body is what we're being asked to do, essentially. So the emotional body, our emotional selves, it's so tender and it's so magical and it's so watery. And I remember a few years ago having the drop in about that we are a water planet. There's more water than land on this planet, and we are water beings. And the fact that we cry is just like so profound. And we produce this moisture, we produce it sexually, we produce it emotionally. It's like we produce water, in response to sensation and feeling. We are water beings. And if we aren't producing water, if we aren't allowing our tears to flow, if we're not allowing ourselves to get sexy and juicy, there's something that's blocked, because we're meant to be moist beings. And when we are allowing that water to move through us, when we're allowing ourselves to flow, what is moving through that is energy. The energy of our beings is moved through water. So if we are not able to allow that emotion to move through us, it's stagnant. And when it's stagnant, then it's stuck. And when it's stuck, we're stuck. And, to be in a space of emotional fluidity requires a deep sense of safety, ironically. So, it might feel like, well, if I'm feeling all my feelings and I'm crying loads, and I might not be feeling safe, but there's like an inner safety that permits that movement. Like I was in freeze for a very long time. And yeah, kind of I actively disconnected from my feeling body. Like there was a shock that severed it. And I think this is also another really important thing to speak into, is the shock element of what can happen to us as human beings, and then how that it's interesting, the things that I wanted to come through today. It's a bit more energy healing vibes. But when we go through a shocking experience, again, like our energy bodies can come out of alignment. So we're misaligned because of the shock, and then we almost carry on moving through life in that shocked space. But when we can allow ourselves or actively go for the treatments that support us to come back into alignment with our energy bodies, and so that all of our layers are connected again, then there's energy that needs to move through. So it's like, okay, we might have had a shocking traumatic experience at some point in our lives, and we're like, yeah, I'm cool with it now. But then once we bring ourselves back into full alignment, there is going to be more energy that needs to move, no matter how far we feel that we've come with it, because the doorway is now back in alignment, and the backlog of the energy needs to be expressed. And this is really what the blue hand is about. It's like emotional expression, and emotional expression can look like art, but often the art that is created through emotional expression, has had fucking anger poured into it, or deep grief and tears as it's been moving through. Like, it's the art that is created is the final product of a process, and it's the process that's the key. The process of creating from the feeling is the key. So within this 13 days, we are really being asked to feel. And I know that, for me, this quest that I'm going on, I've not really had the time on my own, and it wasn't the right time because I wouldn't have been able to hold it at the beginning of the processing that I've been doing since the beginning of 2025. But I know that I'm kind of going into this time of deep solitude, really, to be able to allow what needs to come up to be processed in whatever way that needs to happen. And it's this, I spoke of it of safety, but it's about this secure relationship with self, where we can give ourselves that space and that time to tenderly open and see what's there, and then be able to hold and meet what's there, to be able to be with what's there. So the blue hand is about this tenderization process. It's like coming out of the freeze, coming out of the mind, coming out of the overdoing, coming out of the coping, coming out of the all the things that we do to just fucking get on with it. Because sometimes, a lot of the time, we need to just fucking get on with it. And the other side is that we have to make the space for the tender to arise. We have to create the environment for the tender to arise. We have to give, particularly in the world as it is, like it's a duty, it's like a self-care duty that we have to create space, to nurture, to nourish, to tend to ourselves. And when we are doing that tending, we're keeping everything moist. That love keeps everything feeling nourished and open and able to express. And I think it's so easy, and I'm speaking of this now, like having been very independent for the majority of my life, to then coming into relationship, to then coming out of relationship. It's so easy, I think, for us to, when in relationship, get into a habit of feeling that we need a witness, of feeling that we need the other to hold us through. And I'm not discounting the power of us sharing and holding one another. And, we are wired to co regulate and all of that. And The person that can best hold us is ourselves because we went through those experiences. The person that can give us the depth of compassion and understanding is ourselves. And that's like primary objective, creating that relationship within. And, I've come away from this like the masculine and feminine inside notion a little bit. Not that I discount it, but it was creating quite a like polarity inside of my being. And now there's like the element of the loving being that can be there. And then all other aspects and parts of me. And that's for me feeling like the best relationship model for me to operate through within my internal world. And working with mirrors is really key as well. I've been able to see those vulnerable parts of us and allow that dialogue, to come. I think I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. So for the coming 13 days, the invitation is to soften. And it may be, if you're like, oh, I just don't cry, I just can't cry, have a look at getting some energy work done. Have a feeling to a practitioner that feels safe with you, that you could maybe go and just ensure that your bodies are in alignment. And because if you have had some kind of a shocking thing, it may be that there is a bit of a severance that's happened, that once that is beginning to be brought back into alignment, then yeah, just really giving space for that in a relationship for the next 13 days, give space for art that is not about what gets created at the end of it. It's the process. Give space for somatic movement where you're just following whatever your body is wanting to do, and there's no script, and there's no, oh, I do this move or I do that, and where you're just like on the floor, listening, moving, allowing whatever to come forward. Give space for your tears, give space for your rage, give space, just give space. That's what the blue hand is about. And when we allow that energy to move, then we're in alchemy. That is alchemy. The transmutation for the human is through the feeling and releasing. Being able to journey to the depths of those places that make us want to die. Being able to meet ourselves in the edges that we feel like we cannot possibly love ourselves there. Being able to be with and allow whatever it is that we feel to move through us, to be expressed, to be released, so that we can rebirth ourselves. So, the next video, I will be tuning in from the south of France. And I think there's another Wavespell before the Magdalene container begins. We'll see. But if you're not following me on social media, I'm Dreamspell Dragon Mama on Instagram. And I'll be posting many things as the adventure unfolds. But if you are feeling the call to the container, the Magdalene path, the link's below, and yeah, you're super welcome. It's going to be really big. Have a wonderful 13 days. Go gently, create space, be soft, and devote to allowing yourself to process in the most gentle, spacious, loving way, so that you can really deepen into the love story that exists inside of you. Much love, beautiful people, and see you again soon.